While passengers are peacefully traveling on the Tokyo subway, it unexpectedly bursts into flames. From a distance, a boy witnesses the incident. To his concern, a flaming skeleton emerges from a carriage. When the young man goes on guard, special forces arrive to take charge of the situation. They quickly begin their operation, and although the flaming skeleton resists, it is eliminated. When the young man predicts that a heavy object will fall, he uses his powers to save a girl. He then presents himself to the special forces and explains that he plans to join the team. His name is Shinra Kusakabe. Now Shinra is on his first day in the special forces. He's a rookie. In the room with our hero is Lieutenant Takehisa, and then Commander Akitaru asks Shinra why he has joined the forces, to which the boy replies that he wants to be a hero. Later, the team learns about the role they play, as at one point, and without warning, people began to fall victim to spontaneous combustion, being called the Infernals. Now it's the Special Forces' task to stop this threat and unravel the mystery of why this tragedy occurs. While Shinra is in his dormitory, he begins to have memories with his mother, and he promises her that he will be a hero to protect her. We can see part of what happened after the incident that occurred when he was a child, of which we still do not know. Later, an incident arises that the Special Forces team must take care of. When Shinra is about to give up, his lieutenant motivates him to continue with the mission. Shinra suddenly remembers how his mother falls victim to spontaneous combustion. After temporarily losing consciousness, his teammate lifts him up to continue with the mission. After reloading their weapons and preparing for battle, they begin to attack the enemy. Soon, Shinra takes a stance and begins to unleash his great power. With great speed, he jumps towards where his enemy is and strikes him in the chest, leaving him in ashes. Then one of the fire victims thanks our hero. The next day, Shinra encounters his new companion named Arthur, who has just arrived at the facilities today. Initially, they dislike each other because they have known each other for some time, and Arthur considers him his rival. Soon, another emergency arises, and the team must respond immediately. Then they arrive at the house to eliminate the newly born Infernal, and it is easily located, as it simply sits there doing nothing about it. Arthur approaches its back and activates his sword, reducing the Infernal to ashes in seconds. Suddenly, the house collapses, and the captain, who was inside when the incident occurs, regains composure and vows revenge against whoever has set a trap for them. Joker, who orchestrated this attack, watches the situation from afar with a smile. The next day, our hero receives a big surprise as he manages to meet the person who saved him from the fire he suffered as a child. Shinra asks him if he remembers anything about what happened during the fire 12 years ago, and Leonard replies that with so many fires he puts out during the day, he can't remember something so specific. Now everyone must participate in a simulation at one of the facilities. While most move forward, Shinra stays behind, only to quickly advance thanks to his powers. Inside, our hero encounters Joker, who had previously orchestrated the attack against the team. This mysterious individual asks him if he wants to know what really happened to his mother and brother. Then he threatens to take the lives of Shinra's unconscious comrades. This provokes Shinra's anger, and he lunges at the enemy. Joker easily dodges him, then activates some special ashes he has stored in a little jar, which explode in Shinra's face. The villain takes advantage of this opportunity to attack Shinra. When he's about to kill him, he reveals a truth, that apparently his brother Sho is still alive somewhere. He then makes it clear that if Shinra wants to seek the truth, he must stop pretending to be a hero and become a demon like him. Then Arthur arrives while they are fighting and decides to join the battle. He repeatedly attacks him with his sword, but later Joker gets bored of the situation and decides to retreat. It's then that Shinra escapes from the place carrying his unconscious comrades before the place explodes, as Joker has left a trail of ashes in the air. Later, one of the recruits explains the true component that Joker uses, which turns out to be infernal ashes, which are the remains of the victims of human combustion. To complicate matters, infernals emerge who can regain consciousness and transform into dangerous demons. Shinra and Arthur advance to the scene of the incident by flying through the air. The confrontation begins, and without a word, they both mercilessly start striking the enemy. When the rest of the team arrives, the villain manages to escape, and he reaches the other side of the city. Shinra arrives and easily defeats Miyamoto again, and the Infernal calls him the Devil. Shinra corrects him, asserting that he is a hero and tries to avoid harming the man so that he can be arrested. Unfortunately, the Infernal attempts a sneak attack, only for his arm to be severed. Just before Shinra has the chance to put him to rest, Princess Hibana and the Fifth Company interrupt the battle. Shinra refuses to take orders from her, forcing Hibana to subdue him with her abilities. Shinra finally activates the ignition of his feet, challenging the entire Fifth. Captain Obi and the others catch up before a skirmish erupts, and the two captains begin to negotiate. Despite his suspicions, Obi allows the Fifth to take the Infernal on the condition that they share their findings. Princess Hinawa warns the Eighth to stop poking their nose too deep. But Obi responds that the fire within the Eighth cannot be extinguished so easily. Afterwards, the Fifth and the Eighth go their separate ways. Captain Obi announces an investigation into the Fifth Company, sparking tensions. Hinawa, to keep Shinra focused, shoots his teammate during a meeting. After the encounter, Shinra and Hinawa discuss Hibana's unexpected promotion and the possible conspiracy behind it. Meanwhile, Hibana tortures an Infernal while Iris prays for him, reflecting her inner kindness. Subsequently, Iris confronts Hibana about her dark behavior and her relationship with religion, triggering an emotional confrontation. Conflict erupts as Shinra and other team members infiltrate the Fifth Team's base, managing to defeat several of their opponents. While Arthur bravely faces off against a scientist and his infernal lackey, proving his worth as a knight. Using his right hand, he defeats Miyamoto, who has been enhanced by the scientist, demonstrating his growth and abilities. Meanwhile, Shinra, with determination and courage, heads to the princess's castle. Hibana warns Iris about the arrival of her allies to rescue her, but the princess dismisses her hopes by claiming that everything will end in flames, recalling the tragic fate of her convent companions. Hibana, now imbued with special abilities, believes that her power comes from emerging from the ashes of her past. When the villain is about to set Iris on fire, Shinra arrives. Despite Iris's warnings, Shinra confronts Captain Hibana, who momentarily disables him with her ability. However, Shinra recovers, challenging Hibana's ability and reaffirming his role as a hero. In a fiery showdown, Shinra demonstrates his bravery and determination against the powerful Hibana, who summons flames and challenges his belief in the existence of heroes and gods. As the battle progresses, Shinra fights to stand firm against Hibana's onslaught, who unleashes all her power to defeat him. At one moment, our hero sees the opportunity to finally defeat his enemy, and he strikes her, causing her to lose consciousness. Hibana awakens from her trance, finding Shinra and Iris protecting her. Through a conversation with Shinra, Hibana begins to reconsider her role and actions, while Iris expresses her admiration for her. Finally, Hibana shows a softer side by sharing childhood memories with Iris, leading to a change in her perspective and a possible future, where kindness and friendship triumph over darkness. Amidst a party where all members of the organization are present, secluded, Obi and Hibana discuss Obi's plans to uncover the truth about human combustion. Hibana also reveals that there is someone out there causing artificial infernals. They decide to work together to bring justice to those causing these fires. All the infernals that have been attacking others lately have been from the Shinjuku district, under the jurisdiction of the First Company. In a meeting with his subordinates, Obi reveals that his plan is to infiltrate the First District under the guise of the Rookie Reassignment Training System. Shinra and Arthur are ordered to go undercover and learn as much as possible about the people creating artificial infernals. Maki guides them to the Obelisk of the Holy Sun, the elegant base of the First Company. Takeru Noto from the Second and Toru Kishiri from the Fifth join them as camouflage for the operation. Karim Flam greets them inside and scolds them, but Shinra simply takes it as a redundant speech. Shinra is excited to meet Captain Burns, eager to uncover everything he knows about the fire 12 years ago. Maki introduces the new recruits to Captain Burns' 3 lieutenants, Foyan Lee, Karim Flam, and Rekka Hoshimiya. Shinra suddenly challenges them to a combat to assess their skills. Rekka claims it won't be necessary, but Burns decides to accept it. Upon hearing about Shinra's bout with the captain, Tamaki rushes to the practice grounds. Burns decides to start with the company with the lowest number, but Takeru is too timid to want to participate. He faces off with Rekka anyway, where the latter calls him Juggernaut. Takeru dislikes using his flames, but Rekka convinces him to fight. Rekka evades all of Juggernaut's fire missiles, and Karim is forced to extinguish them himself using thermoacoustic cooling. Toru declines to go next, so Captain Burns decides to face Shinra and Arthur at once. Arthur attacks first, but his Excalibur is blocked with a single hand and extinguished in an instant. Shinra tries to apply pressure with his flaming feet, but the captain is simply in another league of strength. Burns asks why Shinra wants to be a hero, and after hearing his answer, effortlessly defeats him. After the battle, Captain Burns officially welcomes all the new apprentices. Shinra is discouraged by the loss, but Karim admits that the two rookies did quite well and will take care of them. The alarms sound again, indicating an emergency for Team 8. To keep them better monitored, Karim orders Shinra and Arthur to wait, but Shinra notices suspicious behavior that results in an infernal transformation. He pursues the culprit, and Shinra suddenly finds Rekka and Karim at the end of the alley. The rookies gather in their room. Arthur suspects the lieutenants, but Shinra doesn't identify the friend from the foe. He explains having seen a firefighter turn a civilian into an infernal with an insect. They then decide to investigate Karim's room, while Juggernaut distracts them. They find an infernal insect, concluding that Karim is the culprit. Karim confesses to leaving the insect to test them, suspecting Rekka. Rekka manipulates Tamaki to gather children. Shinra intervenes when Rekka attempts to transform more children. He stops the enemy by crushing his head. Traumatized, Tamaki can only cry. The villain isn't completely dead, and he gives our hero a long battle. Later, as they take their battle to the sky, Shinra manages to overcome Rekka and defeat him with a decisive kick that sends the traitor's face back to the pavement. Tamaki ensures the children are safe. Shinra is exhausted and demands that Rekka surrender without further resistance. He refuses to let the compatible children escape and claims he will do whatever it takes for the evangelist. Despite the excessive use of his flames, Rekka tries to exterminate everyone present. However, Karim arrives and freezes him completely using his power. Foyan Lee also arrives, and they discuss the possibility of a powerful organization being behind this. Suddenly, Rekka is pierced by a flaming arrow, killing him. Two warriors in white robes shoot from a rooftop from a great distance. They attempt to eliminate the remaining fire soldiers and even shoot Foyan's arms. Shinra raises a smoke curtain and sees the enemy from a window. Tamaki marks the targets with her flame, and Karim freezes it to block their view. Realizing they've been spotted, the mysterious white-robed figure withdraws. Everyone regroups, and Karim uses his robe to cover Tamaki's exposed body. He tells her to be more prepared to prevent further casualties among the children. Karim believes that Rekka wasn't always an evil person, and wants to know who turned him into this. Shinra believes that his brother has been taken by the evangelist and exploited for his abilities. Shinra and Karim agree to work together to go after the evangelist. From Tokyo, the Emperor summons everyone to an urgent meeting. This is why part of Team 8 travels to the location. Our hero on the way discovers that Amaterasu is a perpetual thermal energy plant that provides energy to the entire Tokyo Empire. Secretly, and without anyone seeing her, Hibana speaks with a man, the captain of the 3rd Brigade, who wears a mask of the Black Plague. He reproaches her for working for the 8th Division when her true job is to benefit the Haijima Company. The meeting begins with the presence of all the captains, and everyone now listens to the Emperor, who says that there is an enemy within the organization, and the mission will be to catch the evangelist, who is a traitor. Then the elder speaks to Shinra and tells him about the Adora Burst, a very ancient and pure flame that the sun used to create the world. The Emperor tells this to Shinra because in his generation, there are already people who are carriers of the Adora Burst. This explains why Shinra was able to defeat several dangerous opponents, being just a rookie. Later, Captain Obi orders the entire team to protect Shinra. While everyone returns home, our hero stays a bit longer to venture into the Amaterasu facilities, when suddenly he encounters this mysterious character again. He explains that he seeks no conflict, but gives him a valuable piece of advice. If he continues to pursue the evangelist, he will find his brother because he works for them. With nothing more to say, he disappears, leaving the young man speechless. Later, while having dinner, Shinra tells them that he has encountered Joker again, and also informs them that his brother may still be alive. They begin to encourage him and commit to helping him in his mission to reunite with Sho. The 8th Company gathers to discuss reports that could be related to the White-Clad organization. This report deals with the first fire that the 8th faced prior to the arrival of Maki and Iris. Obi asks Lieutenant Hinawa to recount how the 8th Fire Force Company began. In the solar year 195, Takahisa was a military man at Yokota Base and friends with Maki and Tojo. Initially, he distrusted Maki for being the daughter of a general, but Tojo reassured him. However, Tojo becomes an infernal, and Hinawa decides not to shoot him. The next day, he receives Tojo's weapon and encounters a fire. At that time, Obi was a firefighter who disagreed with the methods of the fire soldiers. He observes how the 3rd Company prioritizes infernals over the living. Hinawa and Obi decide to work together to defeat the infernal. Hinawa reveals that he doesn't follow Saul, but he couldn't bring himself to shoot his infernal friend. Obi decides to take care of the dying infernal. Afterwards, they decide to found their own company to investigate the infernals. 2 years later, they establish their base in a cathedral and recruit Maki. She feels honored by the history. Obi recalls that the beliefs of the 8th remain unchanged. In the first fire of the 8th, the victim was a white-clad infernal. Although he was dispatched without issue, there were strange circumstances. The site of the fire remains operational in Asakusa, territory of the 7th Company. In the bustling streets of Asakusa, Benimaru strolls with his characteristic indifference under the nickname Waka. Although he receives some attention and sweets from the locals, he maintains his cold and distant aura. Upon returning to the 7th space, he shares the sweets with the twins, Hinata and Hikage. Konro Sagemiya informs Benimaru about the 8th's plans to investigate their area. Although he suggests ignoring them, the 8th suddenly arrives. Obi tries to avoid formalities, which displeases Benimaru. The latter urges them not to disturb his territory, even in the face of warnings about the infernals. Shinra confronts Benimaru for his passivity despite his power. Before tension escalates, a fire alarm sounds. Benimaru learns of the presence of infernals and orders the 8th to withdraw before taking action. Unfortunately, a citizen becomes an infernal. The 7th Division supports Benimaru as they initiate their festival. They use unique abilities to combat the infernal, although causing collateral damage. It is revealed that Benimaru is a composite soldier with 2nd and 3rd generation abilities. Despite the destruction, the people of Asakusa show their gratitude towards Benimaru. The damaged houses are sacrificed to keep the plague at bay. The residents trust Benimaru to bring them peace in their final moments, earning him the title of the King of Asakusa's demolition. After Kantaro's loss, the 8th group watches in astonishment as Asakusa mourns their dead in a unique way. They decide to organize a festival to honor the departed and help rebuild the damaged houses, offering shelter to those who temporarily lost their homes. Shinra and Captain Obi agree that they should contribute to the repairs if they want to continue their investigation in the future. Each member of the 8th team gets involved in the reconstruction of the devastated city. Meanwhile, the White-Clad detect the presence of the 8th in Asakusa and receive orders from their leader to eliminate the investigation immediately. At the end of the day, Benimaru tends to Konoro's burns, and the twins approach Shinra, who entertains the girls. Konro expresses his appreciation for the members of the 8th, suggesting cooperation between the two groups. Although Benimaru doesn't see himself as a leader, he decides to collaborate with them. Later, Shinra consults Benimaru about Konro's tephrosis burns. Benimaru seeks a meeting with Obi, but upon overhearing a conversation between him and Hinawa about turning Kantaro into an infernal, he impulsively attacks. Shinra tries to calm him down without success. Benimaru challenges the entire 8th Company, unaware that the White-Clad manipulated the situation. Obi prepares to confront Benimaru, challenging him to a duel to clear his name, despite lacking fire abilities. Although Benimaru initially dominates, Obi returns equipped with his special Fire Force armor. Despite Obi's resilience, Conroe intervenes to prevent a prolonged fight. Upon returning to the watchtower, they discover that the previous Obi might have been an imposter. Benimaru sets out to investigate, while Conroe shares his story of sacrifice to save Benimaru during a confrontation with a powerful infernal. In the 196th year of the solar calendar in Asakusa, Tokyo, Conroe survives an encounter with an infernal demon, being found charred but alive by Benimaru at dawn. Despite his insistence that they should have fought, Conroe refuses to lose Benimaru and assures him that he will lead and protect Asakusa. Following the incident, Special Fire Force Company 4 arrives and formalizes the incorporation of the Haikeshis of Asakusa into the Special Fire Force as Company 7. Although Benimaru initially shows reluctance to be part of the Empire, Conroe believes they should leverage their resources, thus marking the establishment of Company 7. 2 years later, in the current year, Conroe doesn't regret his decisions, and Shinra aspires to be a hero to prevent unnecessary sacrifices. Meanwhile, disturbances arise in Asakusa, with people accusing each other of crimes they don't remember, catching Benimaru's attention. The 8th group encounters Hinata and Hikage, arguing about their authenticity, revealing that one of them is an imposter. Meanwhile, an individual from the White Clad uses their abilities to manipulate people's faces. This group is poised to provoke a major fire in Asakusa. Benimaru investigates the misunderstandings while the White Clad artificially create infernals to find a compatible human or create a demon. As they pursue the 8th group, fire arrows begin to attack them from multiple directions. Shinra and Arthur attempt to pursue the sniper, facing off against 2 members of the White Clad in an uneven fight. However, by working together, they manage to overwhelm their opponents and force Arrow to retreat. Desperate, the enemy consumes an infernal insect, prompting Benimaru to act to stop the threat. Benny still acknowledges Conroe as the leader, who entrusts him with responsibility during his absence. Although reluctant, Benny accepts and warns the community about the presence of imposters among them, urging unity against any external threat. Meanwhile, Shinra and Arthur confront the white-clad archer and their infernal associate. Benny, upon spotting the demon, decides to face it personally, recalling the trauma of his past linked to infernal flames and experiencing an Adola link. Hika confronts the white-clad individual who deceived Hina with promises in exchange for her kimono. Together, the twins punish the imposter and their accomplices. Benny confronts the demon in an aerial battle, while Conroe, unable to intervene directly, calls for Shinra's help. Guided by his protective instinct and conviction that his flames preserve humanity, Shinra intervenes, deflecting an arrow aimed at Benny. The archer compares Shinra's Adala link to that of the evangelist. Using a technique from Conroe, the Crimson Moon, Benny defeats the demon. Shinra saves him from a fall, and the members of the 7th inform Conroe that the flames and infernals have been eradicated, attributing the success to Shinra and his team. Conroe acknowledges the contribution of the 8th, especially that of Shinra. Yona and Arrow, Knights of the Ashen Flame, inform Sho Kusakabe about Shinra's situation. They relay that Haran has been deemed a martyr. Arrow highlights Shinra's Adala link connection to the demon. Sho expresses his determination to obtain the Adala link at any cost and promises to be present at the next encounter. Meanwhile, Obi is dealing with forensic scientist Victor Licht, assigned to the missing forensic team of Company 8. He has ties to Joker, and their interactions start with a slight stumble as Licht doesn't offer the usual greeting. The scientist attempts to study Shinra's feat, seeking the source of the Adala link, while boasting of his own intellect and experience in applied pyrokinesis at Hajime Heavy Industries. Princess Hibana questions Licht's presence in Company 8, to which he pleads to join them, arguing that the company lacks an engineer. Though initially rejected, he suggests recruiting Vulcan Joseph, a skilled craftsman whose aversion to Hajime and the Special Fire Force makes him reluctant to join. Obi trusts that Shinra, Arthur, and Iris can persuade him and instructs them to approach him with sincerity. Vulcan, suspicious yet talented, initially shows hostility by hurling soda cans at the newcomers. However, his apprentice, Yu, agrees to listen. Shinra, Arthur, and Iris manage to enter and witness Vulcan's skills in action. Vulcan reveals his dream of reviving extinct animals and his deep resentment towards Hajime, fueled by suspicion that Giovanni, a former apprentice of his now associated with Hajime, may be involved in the death of his family. Shinra offers Company 8's assistance, and Vulcan showcases a machine projecting images of extinct animals, sharing his desire to bring them back to life. Lisa, taken in by Vulcan after losing her parents to Infernals, reveals suspicions about her family's connection to Hajime and Giovanni's potential involvement in their tragedies. As Lisa withdraws, Shinra's Adala link detects Giovanni's murderous intent towards Vulcan. Vulcan bows before the graves of his parents, sharing with them the weight of his workday and the search for a new family. He expresses his longing to forge unbreakable bonds, contrasting with the familial fractures that marked his past, embodied by his grandfather and father. Meanwhile, Shinra, Iris, and Arthur debate Giovanni's hidden motivations and his potential homicidal nature. Shinra tracks down the aforementioned, while Arthur takes on the responsibility of protecting the group. On his part, Arthur tries to explain his concerns to Vulcan, who finds it hard to believe that Hajime poses a threat to the 8th Brigade. Their conversation is interrupted by Yu, who points out an unusual gathering outside. Giovanni ambushes Shinra, using second-generation cables to control his attacks and bring him before the Evangelist due to his Adala burst. Meanwhile, Arthur seeks to embody the true spirit of a knight before battling, and Vulcan provides him with equipment to do so. Equipped with a cape, a sword, and a donkey head, Arthur confronts the enemies. His sword, unusually potent, effortlessly dispels the illusions of the white-clad foes, revealing their true numbers. Despite the destruction of his symbol of power, Arthur rises to defend his position with renewed vigor. In an unexpected turn, Lisa betrays Vulcan and Yu, unable to resist Giovanni's tactics to obtain the key to Amaterasu. Desperate, Giovanni injures Yu to extract the information he seeks. Vulcan, seemingly unaware of the whereabouts of the key, infuriates Giovanni, who brutally attacks, destroying Vulcan's dreams and projects in the process. Hibana reveals she has been spying on Iris using an insect and releases Shinra so he can return to Vulcan's workshop. Meanwhile, Giovanni finds the key inside the broken projector. Shinra arrives just in time to try to stop him, while Hibana helps Arthur outside. Lisa attacks Shinra with magnetic flames, but Vulcan instructs Iris to press random buttons, causing the animatronics to fall from the ceiling. Lisa's flames recoil due to the magnetic field generated by the machines. Shinra fights Giovanni, sending him out of the workshop. Shinra's Adala link activates once again when Sho appears. Excited to see his brother, Shinra fails to realize that Sho does not recognize their relationship. Disgusted, Sho declares that Shinra will be taken by the White Hoods. Arthur tries to intervene, but Sho injures him with his sword. Licht helps everyone escape in a truck while Vulcan picks up Arthur and Shinra. Vulcan tries to convince Lisa to join them, but she refuses. Sho appears to stop them, but Joker holds him back, revealing that they both sustained minor injuries. Shinra informs Obi about the events while Vulcan decides to stay with the 8th for safety. At home, Shinra promises to protect his younger brother, wishing to bring him back. Vulcan, surprised by the 8th's attitude during dinner, feels touched and reaffirms his commitment to the brigade. Finally, Vulcan visits the tomb of his ancestors, apologizing for breaking his promise by aiding the 8th. Flam, Hibana, and Conroe gather to share information about the investigation of the 8th. They discuss how the 3rd is outraged and attempting to cover up the events. Obi reveals that he has assigned Licht the task of finding the enemy's base, which raises suspicions in Hibana. Meanwhile, Licht is seen talking with Joker, who asks him to devise a plan to enhance Shinra's flames. Conroe offers to train the recruits in hand-to-hand combat, while Benny trains Arthur and Shinra in fighting techniques. Licht explains a way for Shinra to enhance his flames, while Benny demonstrates how to improve their propulsion and accuracy. Conroe shows distrust towards Licht, considering him suspicious for the 8th Brigade. Alongside the 8th Squad, Vulcan works on improving firefighting and creates support weapons for Spark and Flare. Benny reveals to Shinra the art of Tenokata, explaining how each hand formation has a specific use and meaning. Using one of these formations, Shinra instantly compresses his flames, increasing their speed with intense concentration. Benny asks Shinra about the name of his final move, rejecting the young man's idea. Meanwhile, Arthur begins training with a katana, learning new fencing techniques. As Shinra perfects his flames, he experiences a deep connection with his brother. A group of white-clad members gather, with Dr. Giovanni highlighting that the 8th Company is close to uncovering their base. Sho points out they have an advantage because one of them has a special bond. Shinra's childhood memory inspires him to act swiftly, albeit fearlessly. He recalls his promise to rescue Sho if needed. Elsewhere, Obi informs Company 8 about the lead found in Vulcan's workshop, indicating that the white-clad might be in the Nether. Iris describes the Nether as a dark and dirty place where not even sunlight reaches. Victor reveals that they are actually old subway tunnels. In a dream, Shinra sees a woman resembling Iris and feels their special bond, awakening abruptly. The next day, Company 8 heads to the Nether with special permission. Iris reiterates her fear of the place. Once inside, Maki lights the way while Yona and Mirage create a distraction. Arrow orders Assault to go after them. Iris stays behind with Takami and an imposter, facing a confusing situation. Meanwhile, Maki confronts the White-Clad, overcoming her initial fear and defeating them with the help of her new team. On the other hand, Tamaki fights against Assault, recalling a previous conversation that motivates her to give her best. Although her ability distracts her, Iris takes the opportunity to strike Assault with a metal pipe. Together, they defeat Assault and walk away, feeling empowered by defending themselves. Hinawa is face-to-face with Arrow in a solitary showdown. Licht is captured by a member of the White-Clad and used as bait for Shinra, who frees him with his swift movement. Hinawa and Arrow exchange strategies as they battle to eliminate each other. Hinawa finds himself trapped in an abandoned train due to Arrow's calculated moves, who takes advantage of the situation to ruthlessly shoot at him. During the confrontation, they discuss their beliefs, with Arrow questioning why Hinawa continues to fight despite emotional exhaustion. Hinawa responds enthusiastically, determined not to let the 8th Company be led solely by Obi. Hinawa fires with a powerful shotgun, changing the barrel after each shot. The intensity of the battle is likened to a clash between two tanks. Despite his injuries, he continues to fight, using Arrow's flames to enhance his own attacks. Eventually, he manages to defeat Arrow but falls exhausted against a pillar. Two members of the White-Clad approach him, but Hinawa, still standing, fires a bullet that narrowly misses its target. The ceiling collapses, revealing Arthur on the other side. Arthur faces off against clones created by a White-Clad member, utilizing his abilities to discern which one is the real enemy. With a precise strike, he defeats the enemy, saving Hinawa from a deadly blow. Meanwhile, Maki encounters Tamaki and Iris, and later they are joined by Vulcan, Obi, Giovanni, and Lisa. Giovanni shows interest in Lisa, reminding her of her true name and threatening her with repercussions. He explains that the Evangelist is aware of everything, from the artificial infernals to the flame of destruction, demonstrating his profound knowledge and power. Lisa has a special ability with insects, but her life has been marked by tragedy. Her parents died at the hands of an infernal, which caused her a deep fear of fire. However, she finds solace in insects. Obi and Vulcan try to convince her not to continue down this path, as her power is out of control. Obi plans to free Lisa from her flames by strategically placing extinguishers under her tentacles to smother them. Although Lisa feels empty without her flames, Vulcan saves her from a free fall, only for Giovanni to take her hostage and torture her. Giovanni forces Vulcan to shoot Obi, but the latter reveals he's protected by a bulletproof vest. Meanwhile, Obi questions Giovanni about the Evangelist's motives for creating infernals, and Giovanni justifies them as part of protecting a supposed natural order, linked to the mysterious Adola burst. Shinra, affected by hallucinations due to his Adola link, confronts Sho, who tries to show him his truth about Adola. Shinra and Sho engage in an intense confrontation, with Sho manipulating time and space to his advantage. Shinra sustains serious injuries but refuses to yield. Meanwhile, Giovanni withdraws, satisfied with having brought the boys together. The two brothers argue about their different perceptions of the universe, while Licht observes Sho's ability to expand his universe using heat, leaving Shinra feeling powerless against him. Sho tries to demonstrate his truth to Shinra through their Adola link. Sho reveals that the flames of the Adola burst represent the land that Shinra sees during his bonds, capable of affecting all forms of life beyond their universe. Shinra, horrified, recognizes the Evangelist among the black flames and skeletons. Confronting the Evangelist, the Adola world fades, and they return to the real world. Licht explains that Sho's flames manipulate the expansion of the universe to stop time. Despite his efforts, Shinra faces an inevitable defeat against Sho. Tirelessly, Shinra attempts to dialogue with Sho, asking him to call him older brother. Shinra pursues Sho as if they were playing hide and seek, but Sho keeps sending him flying over and over again. Shinra tries to emotionally connect with Sho, reminiscing about their childhood together. In a moment of desperation, Shinra invokes a bond with Sho, severing it with his flames. Shinra realizes that Sho's strength comes from his connection to the Adola world, and wonders if he too can harness that power. Despite the continuous blows, Shinra refuses to give up, expressing his determination to emotionally impact others. Shinra attempts to approach Sho once more, but Sho attacks him with a move that will separate the universes in which Shinra exists. Despite his wounds, Shinra persists, expressing his appreciation for Sho's existence. When Sho freezes time, Shinra suddenly disappears, showcasing a new ability. Meanwhile, Licht watches with concern, aware that Shinra's power could lead him to destruction. Sho continues to attack his brother, who suddenly reappears and strikes him. A member of the White Clad suggests that this could be the emergence of a new generation of flame users. Shinra, exhausted and wounded, smiles at the prospect of facing his brother once again, even though it could bring him to the brink of death. Shinra persists, even as his memories overwhelm Sho. He confesses that the promise he made to his mother was always important. But now, after seeing his brother in this way, everything feels different. He reveals that during his childhood, he was subjected to bullying and accusations of being a demon who caused his family's death. After that tragedy, he developed a nervous tic that made him constantly smile. Shinra shares the memory of how they used to smile without worries before the fire. Sho recalls how the evangelist approached him during the fire, when he was just a baby. He also relives the memory of Shinra helping him when a newspaper fell onto his baby crib. These memories move Sho to tears. Shinra embraces his brother and apologizes for keeping him in the dark for so long. Just then, Sho's sword replica pierces him, but Shinra reassures his brother that it's not his fault. Haomiya appears and reveals that Shinra cannot control his powers, which led him to accidentally impale himself. She explains her plans to reactivate the Great Cataclysm with Adala bursts. Sho tries to intervene but discovers that his Adala link has been severed. Haomiya repels him with electricity and escapes with him. The Eighth is forced to retreat while they take severely injured Shinra to Kayoko Huang for treatment. During the operation to save him, Shinra constantly recalls his brother. He finally awakens days later, hungry and obsessed with finding Sho. Burns visits him and reveals that he always knew about the fire from 12 years ago, but chose not to tell him. This triggers a confrontation between them. Vulcan tries to strike up a conversation with Shinra, but the latter is distant and responds abruptly. However, Vulcan reminds Shinra that he is not alone and tries to lighten the mood with a touch of humor. He advises Shinra not to overthink things and jokes about Shinra's ability to think. Finally, after everything that has happened, Shinra returns to the Eighth Squad. Burns challenges Shinra to prove his strength before revealing the truth. Shinra accepts and pierces through Burns' force field, striking him on the arm. Impressed, Burns finally agrees to reveal the truth. Burns explains that Sho's awakening of the Adala burst caused his mother to become an infernal. At that moment, Shinra's abilities manifested, and the evangelist had predicted this event. Burns experienced an Adala link upon seeing Shinra's mother as an infernal baby, holding Sho. Haomiya controlled Shinra's mother with her electricity to lure his younger brother. It was then that Burns decided to tell Shinra about the involvement of the Adala burst in the death of his family. Shinra realizes that he has recently seen his mother in the Adala world and desires more information to be able to find her again. He suspects that Captain Haig might be involved. Obi agrees to investigate this matter and suggests that if Shinra's mother is still alive as an infernal, there might be a way to bring her back. Life has resumed its usual course, as if the previous events, related to the evangelist and the white robe, had never happened. Nonetheless, Shinra remains committed to finding a way to restore humanity to the infernals and unravel the mysteries behind the evangelist and the Adala bursts. The members of Brigade 8, Maki, Iris, and Tamaki, accompany Shinra to buy clothes for Lieutenant Hinawa, who has a terrible sense of fashion. Suddenly, a series of explosions interrupts their day, and upon investigation, Shinra faces a gigantic sentient infernal hurling fireballs. Arthur arrives to his rescue, and together with the rest of Brigade 8, they prepare for the confrontation. Working as a team, they manage to temporarily defeat the infernal, but they discover it has 5 separate cores in its body that must be destroyed. With joint effort, they eliminate the cores in its limbs, while Shinra confronts the central core with his powerful, rapid man kick. Later, Captain Obi introduces Shinra to the competitive annual male nude calendar project of the Fire Force. However, a comical double cobra pose leaves Brigade 8's photo in last place, just like the previous year. Shinra is accompanied by Lieutenant Asako, Haig granddaughter in Brigade 8. They are greeted by the instructor Pert Kopan, who leads Shinra to Haig. Shinra encounters Captain Soichiro Haig of Brigade 4. Surprisingly, Haig asks Shinra to burn him, and a young voice within Shinra's mind urges him to use all his power. Haig reveals having seen the world through what Shinra calls the Adala link, and longs to return, whether to heaven or hell. From a distance, Haomiya of the White Robe comments to Sharon that the woman known as the First Pillar continues to tempt Shinra to use his Adala burst. Shinra loses control. and Haig realizes the seriousness of the situation, forcing him to intervene. At that moment, Arthur appears and steps in to prevent Shinra from unleashing all his power. He even goes as far as using Haig's body as a shield against Shinra's attacks. During the battle, Arthur recalls his childhood with his delusional mother and father, who longed for something beyond their humble existence and abandoned him, leaving him alone with their blessing. The confrontation continues until, with Arthur's determination and attacks, Shinra manages to resist the provocations of the first pillar. In a moment of clarity, he reveals the existence of another pillar, an asset that could be crucial for both the Evangelist and the Fire Force. Obi is debating with the head of the Fire Defense Agency about the implications of the appearance of another pillar. Meanwhile, Inka Kasugatani, a high school student, uses her remarkable sense of smell to detect the faint scent of a house about to catch fire. Quickly gathering her companions, Panda and Sancho, they head to the location, preparing to loot the property once the fire breaks out. Although Inka manages to save the elderly man living there, she doesn't miss the opportunity to steal all his money. Later, the first pillar appears to Inka, sparking her interest. Suddenly, nearby houses burst into flames, and Inka joyfully predicts where they will spread, as if conducting an orchestra. As Brigade 8 rushes to the scene, Obi mentions the existence of a suspicious high school student who could be the fifth pillar, the fire thief. The brigade arrives and splits up to confront the infernals causing the fires. Shinra is tasked with locating the fire thief, while Arthur is sent to stop the plasma user. Haumia discovers Inka and sends Charon to capture her, but he accidentally kills Sancho when the young man tries to intervene, triggering Inka's ignition abilities. Shinra arrives just in time to prevent the White Robe from taking her away, and they engage in an intense battle with Charon. The 8th Brigade faces an increase in the number of infernals, which Obi suspects are being generated by the infernal bugs. While Shinra briefly stops Karen and tries to persuade Inka to join the Fire Force, she rejects the offer and flees in search of an escape from her monotonous life. Amidst the chaos, an infernal demon appears, adding to the already overwhelming number of people infected by the infernal bugs, putting the Fire Force in a critical situation. However, just when things seemed to be getting tough for the team, Obi had requested reinforcements in advance, and Lieutenant Karim, Toru Kishiri, and Juggernaut arrived to contain the infernals and confront the White-Clad. Subsequently, the 2nd and 5th Brigades join forces with the 8th Brigade to eliminate the remaining infernals and evacuate the citizens. In a confrontation on a rooftop, Arthur attacks Haumea, the mastermind behind the city's attack. Meanwhile, Shinra pursues Inka, who has been captured by the White-Clad, but she refuses to join either side. When the White-Clad take Inka away, Shinra faces Charon once again, but his attacks seem to have little effect. In a desperate attempt, Shinra decides to try a new technique that Obi taught him, known as Korna. While facing Charon in an intense battle, Shinra recalls Flam Karim's words about second-generation pyrokinetic abilities. They cannot generate fire, but they can control it. With that idea in mind, Shinra suspects that Charon possesses these abilities and decides to try his Korna technique again. However, he realizes that his knowledge is insufficient against Charon's experience. Despite his efforts, Shinra manages to injure Charon but not defeat him. With Charon preparing to counterattack, and the Fire Force occupied with the demon and the fires ravaging the buildings, Licht suggests a strategy, harnessing the power of the second generations to direct the flames towards the town square. There, Maki controls and shapes the flames, turning them into a whirlwind of spiral fire. Vulcan and Obi work together to lead the demon into the center of this firestorm, where it is consumed by its own ferocity. Karim then intervenes, freezing the column of fire and extinguishing the flames. Shinra tries to persuade Inka to join him, but she decides to stay with the White Hoods, and Charon leaves Shinra severely wounded. Panda, the sole survivor and accomplice of Inka, catches up to them and demands they let her go. As Charon prepares to intervene, Inka anticipates what is about to happen, engulfs Panda in flames, and then departs with the White Hoods. Following these events, the Fire Force faces the challenge of how to handle the forces against them. After discussing with other brigades, Obi announces that Shinra, Arthur, Tamaki, and Victor will join a joint operation with members of other brigades, Takeru Noto and Ogun Montgomery, under the command of Pan. Their objective is to investigate the Great Cataclysm that occurred 250 years ago, hoping to gather information about Adala bursts and the Evangelist's motives for gathering the 8 pillars. The investigation will take place outside the Tokyo Empire, on the Chinese peninsula. The 7-member team will depart on a steamship bound for mainland China. The Fire Force team arrives in Avalon on the Asian continent, where Takeru Noto reunites with his mother, who reveals that their farm has been raided. As they prepare to head towards a spatial rift, the group travels inland in a covered half-track. However, they are affected by gas escaping from the cracks in the ground, acting as a stimulant that causes them to behave erratically. Amidst this situation, they are attacked by a giant worm-like beast, but are saved by a talking mole named Shop. Shop reveals that it was him who raided Noto's farm in search of potatoes. Offering himself as a guide, Shop leads the team to his home, an oasis near the spatial rift, which has been invaded by strangers. On the way, they encounter Shop's friend, Beauty, a talking crow. That night, they witness a large number of infernals roaming the countryside. Upon arriving at the oasis, Beauty shows Shinra the tabernacle, similar to the Amaterasu in the Tokyo Empire. Guided by Shop through a forest full of human ruins, they reach one of the pillars surrounding the tabernacle. However, they are attacked by infernal dogs associated with the invaders, but Tamaki neutralizes them. Later, Shinra hears an internal voice urging him to save the forest. Shinra, convinced that the internal voice came from the tabernacle, listens to Shop's explanation about its history and how a young woman dressed in a black robe taught them to speak and repaired the structure. However, the group is suddenly attacked by hooded intelligent infernals who have also placed explosive traps in the surroundings. One of the infernals claims that the tabernacle was built to destroy the world, but Shop refutes it, arguing that it has actually benefited them. This assertion leads Shinra to reflect on how an Amaterasu can be used for both good and evil. Meanwhile, the Tempi Infernals have gathered a series of tablets with the intention of unleashing the full power of the tabernacle. Pert Copan, Victor, and Arthur decide to investigate the interior of the tabernacle, while Tempi leads an attack of his infernal followers against the fire force outside. Tempi reveals his intention to commit suicide and ascend to heaven by blowing up the tabernacle, which would cause the destruction of the forest and the surrounding region. Shinra promises to stop him, even though Tempi possesses the power of a demon. Suddenly, Shinra feels the Adala link, and the young woman in the black robe appears behind him. Meanwhile, inside the tabernacle, Pert Copan and Victor try in vain to decipher the numbers engraved on the tablets and walls, until suddenly Arthur has an idea that could be the solution. After the world was engulfed in flames and ashes following the Great Cataclysm, a man known as Raffles the Fur led his followers to an immaculate flame, a source of energy that he used to create the Amaterasu and benefit humanity. Inside the Amaterasu tabernacle, Victor tests Arthur's hypothesis about the pi-based code, although the results are inconclusive. They advance towards the entrance of the core, which emits a mechanical sound akin to a heartbeat. Upon finding arrows with white feathers, including one in the keyhole, Victor deduces that the core implies a sacrifice and could contain a living being with an Adola burst. Meanwhile, outside, Shinra and the team fight against the Infernals until only Tempi remains. The latter creates a flaming scythe and attacks the fire force, seemingly invincible. Shinra, still hearing the voice urging him to save the forest, asks Ogun, Tamaki, and Takeru to delay Tempi while he and Skop try to contact the woman dressed in black. Finally, they manage to do so, but she's too weak to offer more than a brief moment of Adola grace to aid him. Despite this, Shinra believes it will be enough to defeat Tempi. Shinra accepts the proposal of the mysterious woman in black, bearer of the Adola grace. In a burst of power, he unleashes an attack against Tempi, revealing his ability to travel at the speed of light, causing time to rewind. This sudden temporal journey leads him to witness the past, where Tempi survived the Great Cataclysm, but was left alone and vulnerable. At that moment, the evangelist emerges from the spatial rift, using a fire insect to transform Tempi into an infernal demon. Shinra's attack, which in real time is just a moment, results in the complete annihilation of Tempi, unleashing a massive explosion of flames at a safe distance from the forest. The woman in black then reveals that she herself was ignited by an evangelist insect with an Adola burst, and used her power to create an oasis for the animals. The Fire Force team gathers to share information, deducing that the Amaterasu in Tokyo, controlled by the Holy Sun Temple and Haijima, could be being powered by a human who may be an unwilling sacrifice, now resentful towards humanity. Additionally, they suspect that the evangelist plans to sacrifice the 8 pillars and use the Amaterasu to unleash a second Great Cataclysm. With their mission accomplished, the Fire Force team returns to the Empire of Tokyo to inform Captain Obi about their discoveries and concerns. The Fire Force team gathers around Captain Obi and uncovers a series of shocking revelations. They detail the connections between Amaterasu and the Adola burst, thus questioning the deeply rooted teachings of the Temple of the Holy Sun, and suggesting an intricate connection with the evangelist. Meanwhile, in his tireless pursuit of truth, Victor manages to decipher the enigmatic numerical codes of the tabernacle, confirming Arthur's theory. Brigade 8 becomes frustrated when Obi informs them that the Fire Force headquarters has recommended refraining from taking action for 3 years while the church evaluates the information. Joker, driven by an insatiable desire to uncover the truth, heads to Benimaru Shinmon, known as the Destroyer of God, to ask if he is willing to challenge the Temple of the Holy Sun in search of answers. Surprisingly, Shinmon agrees. While Joker and Shinmon devise their strategy outside the imperial headquarters of the Emperor, Raffles the Reisai, the current ruler of the Tokyo Empire, receives warnings about the growing opposition in Asakusa towards Amaterasu. The Cardinal's caution against provoking Shinmon, known for his relentless determination. Joker and Shinmon launch a bold frontal attack against the imperial seat, achieving initial success. However, their advance is abruptly halted when Shinmon falls victim to an invisible attack deployed by a colossal defender of the Holy Sun. Shinmon quickly recovers from the poison injected by the defender of the Holy Sun, thanks to his resistance to toxins, and together with Joker, they defeat the remaining defenders. They penetrate the church, where Joker discovers a hidden trapdoor leading to the lower levels and the Forbidden Nether. As Shinmon presses Joker to reveal how he has such knowledge about the temple's operations, they find themselves surrounded by the masked Holy Saul Shadows, the temple's secret team of assassins. Joker reveals his true identity as a former member of the Shadows, known only as 5-2. A flashback shows how, despite being physically beaten and subdued, he never submitted to the group's philosophy. He escaped, but the family that took him in was murdered as a warning. In the present, Joker confronts the Shadows' commander, while Shinmon faces off against the other members. The commander deploys his retractable whip sword in a zigzagging pattern, leaving Shinmon to contend with the other Shadows. Joker uses hallucinogenic smoke from his cigarettes to confuse the commander long enough to defeat him. However, just when it seems they have triumphed, Commander Burns emerges ominously from the shadows. Joker now faces off alone with his last card, the Wild card, while the defiant Commander Burns prepares to counter with his next move. Face to face, two old acquaintances, who seemingly, amidst the urgency of those present to fight, decide that now is not the time. It was merely a matter of making their presence known in that place, because they are in search of the same thing as them, the secrets of the Temple of the Sacred Sun, and he has clues about that quest. Shinmon is surprised to suspect that these two already knew each other beforehand. Then Commander Burns and Joker share their experience of the Adala link, transported to an alternate dimension where each lost an eye, and Joker retrieved a flaming violet stone. Burns hands Joker the notebook of Raffles Warren's wife, which, after years of research, he believes is the sole document detailing the events of the Great Catastrophe and the foundation of the Tokyo Empire. Describing the discovery of the Adala Burst and the creation of Amaterasu, the notebook suggests that Raffles may have been replaced by an inhuman being, indicating the possibility that the Temple of the Sacred Sun may have been created by this impostor. Meanwhile, Yona reveals to other Knights of the Ashen Flame that she posed as Raffles the Fern and created the Temple of the Sacred Sun under orders from the Evangelist. Joker directs his attention to Hajime Industries, believing that it must be connected to the Evangelist. In Brigade 8, Lisa returns after being discharged from the hospital, and everyone learns about the findings of Shinmon and Joker. On the other hand, Victor is summoned to Hajime Industries after his report on the expedition to the Chinese peninsula, where he meets the company's president, Gureo Hajime, who asks him to bring Shinra. After Victor leaves, Hajime orders his elimination because he has learned too much. Meanwhile, outside the cathedral, Shinra and Arthur take care of cleaning duties, accompanied by Lisa Isaribi, who assists Vulcan Joseph in creating a new device to face future battles. Vulcan, motivated by a desire for revenge against Giovanni for using Lisa, finds an ally in Shinra. Arthur begins to suspect Shinra because of his past at Hajime Industries, triggering a brief altercation. Vulcan's intervention stops the fight, and he questions Shinra about his experience at Hajime. Shinra reveals how the corporation used them as test subjects, even experimenting on him due to his inability to control his power. The most shocking revelation comes when Victor Licht confesses his role as a spy for Hajime to the entire Brigade 8. While some members show surprise, Akitaru.B reveals that he was already aware of his true loyalty. Licht exposes his mission to observe Shinra, the next bearer of Adala Burst, on behalf of Hajime. This triggers a debate about the course of action to take. He then proposes to take Shinra with them to investigate Hajime's connections with the mysterious Evangelist. In the dark facilities of Hajime Industries, two researchers prepare the third combat trial for Nataku-san and Ichir Kurono in an observation room. Kurono, with his characteristic intimidating aura, proclaims himself as a Shinigami and warns Nataku that this time he will fight seriously. Meanwhile, Nataku, in an attempt to find strength, visualizes Rekka Hoshimiya encouraging him, but his attacks are easily blocked by Kurono. Desperate to prove his worth, Nataku shouts the word fire and activates his ability. However, the researchers observe with concern that the flame's power is insufficient to trigger the Adala burst, and that Nataku is showing signs of mental instability. Despite this, they decide to continue, remembering how Shinra was only able to awaken his Adala burst during a real battle. The fight intensifies as Nataku charges at Kurono, but his effort is in vain, and he is easily knocked down. Kurono, ruthless but also pragmatic, urges Nataku to get up, reminding him that it is his duty to endure punishment. The researchers recognize Kurono's combat skills, likening them to those of the captain of Brigade 7, but they lament his decision to stay there only to torment the youths. After the session, the researchers show some compassion for Nataku, while Kurono, remorseless, humiliates the young man for his weakness. As Kurono tends to his injured arm, Nataku is taken out of the room on a stretcher. When the researchers try to question Kurono about his brutal methods, he responds arrogantly, asserting that he enjoys intimidating the weak, even the researchers themselves. Elsewhere, as they head towards the facilities, Shinra and Lisht discuss Kurono's depraved nature. Lisht describes Kurono as the craziest, in stark contrast to Benimaru Shinmon's recognition as the strongest. Despite the circumstances, Shinra promises to protect Lisht, even knowing he is a spy, recalling his help in previous situations. Upon arriving at the facilities, Shinra and Lisht are met with excessive surveillance. Despite the oppressive atmosphere, Shinra decides to press on, committed to uncovering the truth about the suffering of children like Nataku. However, when he experiences an Adola link with Nataku and senses that there is more at stake, he decides to continue with his disguise to get answers. Inside the observation room, the researchers thank Shinra for allowing them to continue their experiments, while he feels their cold gaze like a shiver down his spine. Just then, the door opens and Kurono enters, announcing the beginning of an inevitable confrontation. Shinra experiences a mix of nostalgia and alertness upon meeting Kurono's gaze, which evokes that of a predator setting its sights on its prey. With his typical sinister aura, Kurono comments that he remembers Shinra and regrets not having had the chance to play with him when he was younger. This insinuation that Shinra remains weak even after growing up triggers an impulsive reaction in Shinra, who pushes him away in response. The battle erupts, and Kurono begins by unleashing a powerful black smoke from his right arm, injuring Shinra and causing confusion, as it seems Kurono didn't even physically touch him. Confounded, Shinra begins to suspect the black smoke and its connection to Kurono. As he attempts to attack, he discovers with surprise that Kurono is able to easily counter his moves. In a fit of rage, Shinra accuses Kurono of abusing his power to mistreat children and vows to stop him. Despite Shinra's chained attacks, Kurono demonstrates impressive skill in blocking them one after another. Inquiring about the mysterious smoke, Kurono reveals its intimate relationship with his senses, allowing him to anticipate and neutralize Shinra's movements. This revelation only fuels Shinra's determination. Then, surprisingly, Kurono solidifies the black smoke into deadly arrows that he launches toward Shinra, who barely has time to react before being ambushed by a knife made of smoke. Kurono, cynical but still interested in Shinra's potential, hopes that his opponent will show more resistance. The researchers intervene, urging Kurono to stop, but he releases more black smoke, raising the temperature and engulfing his surroundings. Enjoying the confrontation, Kurono challenges Shinra to keep fighting as the battle reaches a new level of intensity. Suddenly, in the testing room, the scientists are alerted by an emergency alarm. It seems that Nataku has lost control of his powers, and his dormitory is on fire. The researchers realize they may be facing a classified case. Meanwhile, as Victor explores the Haijima research facilities, he comes across a startling discovery. Nataku has awakened his Adala burst, and he reports the situation to Captain Obi. Without wasting time, Victor, upon noticing the temperature in the room skyrocketing, decides to free Shinra from the training room. Together, they embark on a quest to find Nataku, while Brigade 8 rushes in their matchbox to rescue him. On their way, they encounter a formidable obstacle, a small but powerful robot controlled by Puppeteer named Dominion. Meanwhile, in the corridors of the facilities, Victor and Shinra stumble upon Kurono punishing Nataku for attacking the guards. While outside, the weather intensifies as the robot seems to have smooth control over the flying twin units. Later, Vulcan decides to team up with Maki, unleashing a shot of maximum power with both Tekio. Despite Puppeteer's analysis, the flames manage to completely destroy the robot manipulated by Puppeteer. Although Maki and Vulcan joined forces to defeat one of the Dominions, Puppeteer can create more at will. Kurono manipulates Nataku, targeting the weakest link in Brigade 8 to destroy it. However, his plans are thwarted by the timely intervention of Arthur and Shinra. The White-Clad closely observe the course of events, while Charon confronts Kurono to capture Nataku. Haumea, on the other hand, joins the fray, destroying all of Puppeteer's dominions, forcing Puppeteer to summon his colossal enemy, Dominion, to face Haumea in a titanic battle. Puppeteer, determined to neutralize Haumea, orders Dominion to attack her, while Maki focuses on defeating Arrow, Haumea's protector, almost succeeding in her mission. However, Haumea's fury erupts when she nearly electrocutes Arrow, demanding better support. Meanwhile, Kurono grows bored of his confrontation with Arthur and Shinra, acknowledged as formidable opponents, and uses his black smoke to eliminate the unfortunate White-Clad holding Nataku. The battle turns into a game of strategy to capture the child, while Arthur and Shinra manage to snatch Nataku from Kurono's grasp and run away. Soon, Charon appears on the scene, determined not to let them get away so easily. In the distance, Ritsu unleashes chaos by creating an infernal from an insect and using his necropyro power to reanimate the charred bodies, merging them into a gigantic infernal that incorporates Nataku into its structure. Faced with this, Gureo Haijima urges Kurono to retrieve Nataku and offers to collaborate with Shinra to achieve this. However, Haumea intervenes by sending an electric pulse to Nataku, triggering a chemical reaction in his body that overloads his infected imaginary. The child begins to shoot beams of radioactive energy indiscriminately, unleashing chaos. While Haumea confronts Arthur, Shinra prepares to rescue Nataku, and Kurono reflects on the possibility of seeking less complicated work. As Shinra is attacked, Charon suddenly appears and protects him, stating that his calling is to protect the pillars. Charon assures Shinra that he will cover him while Shinra attempts to rescue the child. Vulcan and Arthur arrive to the rescue, employing a clever plan to free Nataku from Haumea's control. They must place what appears to be a legendary sword into a hatch. Underneath, there is a machine that will collect the plasma emitted by Excalibur and amplify it, creating a magnetic wave that will disrupt the Electric Girl. Eventually, the plan unfolds just as expected, achieving great success. However, it wouldn't be long before this pair is discovered, and they are pursued by Arrow, who shoots arrows while Arthur attempts to retrieve the legendary sword. Shinra faces off against the gigantic infernal containing Nataku, activating the young boy's memories through the Adala link. Nataku relives the heavy expectations of his mother and the pressure imposed by Kurono at Haijima. Feeling resentful, he increases his radiation, triggering an explosion that endangers the entire region. However, Charon intervenes, absorbing and diverting the explosion towards the moon, risking his own life, and ends up exhausted, lying on the ground. Meanwhile, Kurono, concerned about Nataku's growing power, unleashes a massive katana made of black smoke to free him from the infernal. He advises the young boy to maintain a weak appearance to avoid conflicts, thus freeing him from his mother's irrational expectations. By Charon's order, the White-Clad retreat, leaving Nataku under the care of Haijima and Kurono. During a meeting with President Gureo Haijima, Brigade 8 discovers that Haijima is aware that Amaterasu is powered by a human, which motivates their search for individuals with Adola Burst to create an alternative. Vulcan interrupts and proposes a design that doesn't require human energy, leading Haijima to offer financing in exchange for ownership and collaboration in the fight against the Evangelist, who represents a threat to their interests. Faced with this proposal, Brigade 8 is compelled to examine the benefits of an alliance with Haijima against potential ethical conflicts and the autonomy of their mission. Brigade 8 re-engages in combat against the Infernals, but before that, Sister Iris must bless a new arsenal. Shinra offers to accompany her to the central church Choku in the Empire of Tokyo, known as the Baptism Church. There, he meets Lieutenant Hu Yan, who reminds him of the importance of maintaining faith in society. Iris takes him to the National Cemetery of the Holy Sun, where the clergy rest, and confides in him her doubts about the true nature of the church and its connection with the Evangelist. Suddenly, the tranquility of the day is abruptly interrupted when a priest bursts into flames and Shinra reduces him to ashes. Despite Iris's blessings, another sister questions why such a devout man turned into an infernal. Shinra restores Iris's faith by reminding her that the light of the sun transcends both the Evangelist and the ecclesiastical institution. On the other hand, since his defeat against Tamaki Kotatsu, when he was mesmerized by her semi-nude appearance. Assault has dedicated himself to rigorous training to overcome his vulnerability to femininity. Challenging Tamaki to a duel, his efforts are once again hindered by the sight of her underwear, resulting in another defeat. Determined to overcome his weakness, he returns to his training. In his third attempt, he launches a desperate attack, but realizes that he may never overcome his weakness. Maki experiences an unusual dinner at the O's household with her mother, Madoka, her father, General Danro, and her brother, Takigi. After the feast, they address the concerning situation in the Nether, where strange odors have recently been detected. The next day, Takigi and his companion venture together into the darkness of the underground tunnels to investigate. Following new clues, they arrive at a room equipped like a white laboratory, filled with jars containing live infernal insects. In an instant, to add even more fear to the situation, an individual dressed in white with a bomb belt appears and detonates it. The explosion severely injures the researchers, especially Takigi, and both are urgently taken to the hospital. His son's injury drives General Danro to decide that the military must intervene in the activities of the evangelist. He tasks Commander Honda of Brigade 2 with investigating the Nether, and he requests assistance from Brigade 8. However, Maki's father orders her to return to the army for her safety, an order she accepts with much anger. The group is also surprised by the order, as she was indispensable to Brigade 8. Meanwhile, Victor suggests conducting simultaneous raids in the Nether to catch the enigmatic white suit off guard. Drawing on his previous experience, they assign a member of Brigade 8 to accompany each unit of Brigade 2 in the investigation. The operation, titled Investigation into the Nether Laboratory, will finally be carried out the following day at 8 a.m. Incidentally, according to Obi, this mission will be the first without Maki, and he demands that the group stay alert because it will be very dangerous. The research in the Abyss gets underway as Maki is forced to resume her former position as secretary in the Tokyo Army by her father's mandate. At 8 in the morning, the units of the Fire Force of the 2nd Brigade enter the Nether simultaneously. Shinra leads the Hebio Squad, Arthur heads the Heckler Squad, Hainawa is in charge of the Engo Squad, with Takigi Ozi's CID brigades. Tamaki guides the Kaganashi Squad, and Victor leads the Ohana Squad. The Kaganashi Squad is suddenly ambushed by an explosion, while the Ohana Squad faces Ritsu, a purple haze knight leading a horde of infernals reanimated from bodies left during the Great Cataclysm. The squad suffers severe losses, with Ritsu continuing his assault against the survivors, leaving only Victor alive. On another front, squad leader Amon Hajiki of the Kaganashi Squad utilizes his thermal tracking and marksmanship skills to eliminate the infernals attacking his team. However, he is unexpectedly killed by Orochi of Purple Haze, who wields the Medusa Whip. Orochi confronts Tamaki, and although his fire whip can only inflict superficial wounds, he gradually gains the upper hand. In an act of bravery, Juggernaut overcomes his fears and attacks Orochi to protect Tamaki. But the Purple Haze Knight uses his whip both to defend himself and to attack, cutting into Juggernaut's body. However, the latter finds his inner strength by recalling memories where he speaks of his lack of courage, understanding his role in the squad, and suddenly unleashes a burst of fire that destroys Orochi, avenging Amon. After the devastating battle and Orochi's fall, Juggernaut is gravely wounded and unable to move. Tamaki tries to continue fighting with all her strength, promising to bring Jugger safely back to the surface. On another front, Hinawa and his companion confront Iron, another Purple Haze Knight, whose fire ability allows his body to achieve the hardness of steel. Meanwhile, Shinra faces off against Dr. Giovanni, who reveals that the white-clad laboratory was a trap designed to lure the Fire Force into the Nether and defeat them. Genetically transformed with Adola powers, Giovanni initiates a fierce battle with Shinra until Arthur joins the fray. Returning to Hinawa and her companion's fight against Iron, Ozi manages to deflect the attack, while Hinawa targets the vulnerable joints, taking advantage of the fact, as mentioned earlier, that it hardens with fire. Eventually, they use this against him to finally defeat him. As Tamaki sends the remaining Eternals to rest, she is ambushed by 2 more Purple Haze Knights. Fortunately, the timely arrival of Gustav Honda and Captain Obi saves her from a fatal fate. Moments later, in the confrontation with the White Knights, Obi and Honda manage to defeat one of them, Sasori, while Licht uncovers the true plans of the enemies to destroy the underground facilities of Nether. With this crucial information, Honda orders the retreat of the surviving Fire Force. Meanwhile, the White Lady Ritsu, empowered by the additional power of fallen fire soldiers turned infernals, prepares to destroy Nether, threatening to collapse the entirety of Tokyo Empire. The situation reaches a critical point as the battle for the city's future intensifies. Amidst the intense combat, Shinra and Arthur confront Dr. Giovanni, who employs his new insect ability to predict and counter their movements. Shinra reveals having heard Giovanni's voice in his mind, which Giovanni explains is only possible through an Adola link, a phenomenon Shinra recalls experiencing previously with Lieutenant Conroe. Meanwhile, Licht explains to Commander Honda the Evangelist's plan to destroy the heart of the Tokyo Empire through strategically placed infernal explosions in Nether. He suggests that Maki might possess the power to redirect the explosion, sacrificing herself to save others. Despite objections from her brother Tagaki, Maki prepares for the challenge. Ritsu initiates the explosions of the infernals, and Maki and Tagaki work together to redirect the flames to the lower levels of Nether through narrow passages, neutralizing them. Giovanni's frustration is evident as his plans fail, and although Arthur manages to decapitate him, Giovanni transforms into a swarm of insects and escapes. The survivors of the Fire Force return to the surface, where Honda acknowledges the efforts of Brigade 8 and proposes a union between the Fire Force and the Army to confront the Evangelist. Finally, Maki returns to Brigade 8, receiving acceptance from her brother despite his uncertainty about the idea. Additionally, she receives the blessing of General Oz, her father, who recognizes her bravery and skill for saving the soldier Juggernaut, fulfilling her promise to bring him safely to the surface. Shinra and Hibana visit Lieutenant Conroe on the 7th day to explore their potential connection through the Adola link. Upon arrival, they find the lieutenant being attacked by a member of the White Clad, but Conroe skillfully eliminates him with his katana, avoiding the use of fire due to his Tephrosis. Conroe then shares his experience with the Adola 2 years ago, when he faced a demon that resembled himself. The demon left him with a distinctive scar and caused Tephrosis by destroying it, using the hysterical strength of his fight or flight response. Shinmon, while observing Shinra's progress, offers to teach him how to access this strength. The next day, Shinra, Arthur, and Tamaki show up for Shinmon's lesson. They start off with fire trials, although Shinmon assigns Tamaki the task of facing the twin sisters Hikage and Hinata in a game of tag. At first, Tamaki doesn't take the game seriously, but after initially being defeated by the twins, she finds the determination to activate her Nekomata ability and transform into a fire cat, surpassing them in the game. Shinmon praises Tamaki's ability to break free of his self-control, although he is shocked when the sisters remove his clothes as part of their lustful lure syndrome. Despite the momentary discomfort, the training continues, highlighting the growth and determination of the 3 young men. Shinra and Arthur continue their grueling training, subjecting themselves to a series of challenges that push their bodies to the limit, unleashing their hysterical strength. Despite their efforts, Shinmon defeats them with apparent ease, even after hours of intense combat. Shinra finds himself on the brink of death, nearly depleting all the oxygen in his body, but his survival instinct kicks in, and he experiences a deep bond with the Adola, enveloped in blue flames under Shinmon's watchful gaze, who seems pleased that the lad achieved his goal, reaching the next level. Meanwhile, Conroe receives a visit from Hibana and the captain of Brigade 6, Kayoko Huang, who examine his condition and determine that the connection with the Adola persists in those marked with the scar from their contact with that place. Hibana prepares to alert Captain Haig about the white-clad attacks on those marked, but unfortunately, he is murdered in his own office by an individual dressed in white with a golden hand. Simultaneously, Shinra witnesses, through his connection with the Adola, the death of the captain. These events shock the team and lead Shinmon to unit the 7th with the rest of the Empire, while Brigade 8 and their allies prepare for the imminent war with the Evangelist. The Knights of the Ashen Flame take control of the city and prepare for the final assault on the Tokyo Empire, marking the beginning of a decisive confrontation. On another note, the team gathers in the office with Obi, who thanks them for all their hard work and also anticipates that they have gained many allies by forming bonds with other squads. And despite the enemy being powerful, the Fire Force is ready to fight against them by uniting all their forces. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and click the bell icon to get new anime recaps.